Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and this is a real-world test between the Canon EOS R3's autofocus and the Sony A1's autofocus. Now, I took this camera out to Lincoln Financial Field, which is where the Philadelphia Eagles play, to photograph a Temple College football game. Now, here's my setup. I had a Canon EOS R3 with a brand new RF 400 2.8 IS, and I also had a Sony A1 with a 400 2.8 E mount lens. Now, this is the top of the line gear that both of these camera systems are offering, and I wanted to test out the autofocus as head-to-head as possible. Now, it's impossible for me to shoot both of these cameras at the same exact time. So what I did is I shot the first half with the Canon, and I shot the second half with the Sony. The light was changing. It was pretty consistently overcast throughout the game, but at some points it was raining, at other points it was extremely windy, and at even other points near the end of the game, there was some sun. So you're not gonna see exact side to side against each other, but you'll get the picture. I put the Atomos Ninja V on top of both of these cameras. Of course, like I said, I couldn't shoot them at the same time, but the whole point is to show you the EVF. I want you to see exactly what you would see if you put your eyes up to each one of these electronic viewfinders. I want you to see the autofocus working. Now, I did some tweaks to the autofocus. The Canon lets you change a bunch of different cases, and so you can make it a little more sticky so that it stays on the subject longer. With the Sony, you don't get as intricate amount of changes that you can do with tweaks for that, but I did go up to the higher end of the stickiness option. It doesn't just say stickiness, because I wanted it to be as comparable as possible. So here's what's about to happen. You're gonna see EVF footage from the Canon, you're gonna then see EVF footage from the Sony, and we're gonna go back and forth. The whole point of this video is for you to decide what you think is better if you're in the market for one of these two cameras. I'm just supplying you with real-world results here, and after I show you the EVF footage, I'm gonna come back here, I'm gonna go into the computer and show you final images. Because it's one thing to see the EVF recorder working, and it's another thing to see how did it actually do with focus with the images, and then I'm gonna give you some thoughts. Which do I like more? What am I leaning towards? What are the pros and what are the cons? But right now, let's jump into the EVF footage. I do want to cut in here to talk about the EVF footage that you're seeing real fast. It looks like the R3's EVF is recording much cleaner, probably at a refresh rate of about 120 frames per second. Everything just looks much cleaner and sharper down to the numbers on the bottom of the screen, whereas the A1, it's a little more not as high resolution of an output. Now, this doesn't matter to the everyday people because this is only something that the YouTubers kind of do, where we show you the EVF. So there's really no other difference. It's just that you're seeing one's a little cleaner and smoother than the other. But let's get back to these clips. That's pretty impressive, right? Both of these cameras do a really good job in the real world, tracking the subjects, locking onto the subjects, acquiring the subjects. And now I want to jump into the pictures because I want to take a closer look and give you some thoughts along the way, and then maybe by the end of this, tell you what I'm thinking about which one I liked more than the other. So the reason I pulled this image out is that we had a subject crossing the frame. And if I left the camera to just one of the, so let me just take that back for a second. Canon has a bunch of different cases you could choose from. Canon's really always given you a lot of ability to tweak the autofocus when it comes to sports and action. So I wanted it to stay stuck on the subject for a longer amount of time and not to be thrown off by anything crossing the way. I started the game off with the case that's by default, which is 1, and then I switched into the case that was perfect for me, but you can custom do it. But this is great that you're able to stay locked on this subject even when another subject is crossing. Of course, this is the back of the head. It's nothing extremely special about it, but it just shows you the nice bokeh that you get. I mean, you better get it with your 400 2.8, and just getting the focus where you needed it to be. But, there's no eyes in that one. This is what we're looking for right here. This is what I'm talking about. Being able to come in here, remember, this is 24 megapixels. It just took a second to load, but it's nice and sharp right on the face. Now, you may have noticed this from the EVF footage when you would see the Canon and then you would see the Sony. It kind of seems like the Canon acquires the face better. Even at a distance, it just seems to know that this is the face, these are the eyes, this is where I need it to be. It just seemed that it was slightly better from my use of it in the real world than the A1. I still got fantastic results with both of them, but I'll also say that, what is that thing called? Smart Selector. The Smart Selector on the back of the Canon is fantastic for quickly moving the autofocusing points well faster than you can do with the Sony. Now, I've gotten good at moving the camera, so I don't really need to move the focusing point as much, but sometimes you just want to move it quick, and that Smart Selector comes in clutch when you need to use it. But I also want to reset this because I kind of want to show you FroPak in action here, because a lot of people ask, well, your presets don't work on sports. And my honest to goodness true fact is, well, presets aren't really great for sports, things that are meant to be real, right? I mean, I can come in here and be like, okay, Fifth Element matte finish actually looks pretty good if that's what you're going for. It's not the most realistic look, but you can see how some of these work, right? They give you different looks. I wouldn't use this personally myself, but then you've got something like Prestige Worldwide, which is a more catch-all. See, that's without it. And then this is with Prestige Worldwide. You're looking for something that's more natural. But what I did to edit all of these, or a good number of them, is I used Skittles from FroPak 1 and I modified it. I kind of like what I get with Skittles from FroPak 1. Sometimes it's too bright and you just got to tweak it just a little bit. But look, this is where the file started and this is where it was with just a few little tweaks. I like it actually right here. So the whole point here is if you're looking to give yourself a great starting point or speed up your raw workflow, we created 15 custom Lightroom presets that are FroPak 3. If you want to check them out, head on over to FroKnowsPhoto.com/FroPak3. While you're there, you can play with the sliders to see the befores and the afters. And if you decide to pick them up right now, they are currently on sale. Oh, and also, if you purchase any of the FroPaks, you're going to get an extra bunch of entries towards winning the Super Huger Mega Camera giveaway, where I'm giving away $4,999 of my money towards gear at Allen's Camera. But if you want to save even more, get the triple play bundle, which includes Skittles from FroPak 1. It gives you FroPak 2, FroPak 3, and all of them. So if you want to do that, you can save even more. Now let's jump back into here. All right, so we got that out of the way right now. These next couple of images are important. You can see we have a clear look at the quarterback. All right, file, it looks great. I'll show you where it started right there. Right? That's the unedited raw file. That's the edited raw file. But the reason I'm showing this progression here is we have a player that crosses, right? He starts to cross, but it stays nice and locked on the quarterback. We go to the next shot, and this is what we're talking about. This is why you select those cases that stay sticky on the main subject, because McCargo, number 42, is crossing in front of the quarterback, yet it stays stuck on the quarterback's eye or face. It's probably not on his eye, but it's on his face, and that's important because he passes, and then you still have him going through, and it's still in focus right here. That's the point. To be able to have it stay locked on where you want it, have someone cross the path, that's what you want. Now, you can recompose. You can take your finger off the shutter button, put it back on if you want to acquire someone else. That's what I did sometimes where I was focused on the quarterback, then they threw the ball and I tried to focus on someone else. But the fact that it's super sticky the way that it was sticky is great. This is just a cool action shot going in for the tackle. We got all the turf popping. We got the guy going down, putting a shoulder into this guy right here. Just another action shot, a little dark in the face, but there's not much you can do. You can't kick light back into there at all. We got the placeholder right here, getting ready to put up a field goal. The field goal kicker is going to do it. I'm at 1/3200th of a second, 2.8. People always ask, why are you at 1600? Why are you shooting at 1/3200th or 1/4000th of a second? You don't need to be that high for sports. Well, I don't need to be lower for sports. I want to freeze the action in this case. So I aim to be at 1/4000th of a second when I'm outside if it's a nice day. And I have no problem pushing the ISO up slightly because these cameras can certainly handle it. So I don't want to be at 1/1000th. I want to be at 1/4000th of a second. Even if it's a super bright day, we can go even higher now because the electronic shutters allow us to do that. Good shot. This is just showing you we're focused on the eyes right here as the player is being tracked down the field. I lopped off a ton of images of this guy running. I locked onto number one as he's going out for the pass, but I wanted to show you, bam. It's through the visor. Of course, it's probably not through the visor. It's probably focusing on the helmet or on the visor, but that's extremely perfectly usable. So that's one shot, and then a bunch of shots later, he's a little further in the frame, but you can see from the EVF footage that he was being tracked perfectly, and from this shot, you can see that he's also in focus. Now, on the run, we have the quarterback right here. Being able to roll out, being able to track was really good with the R3. The R3 did absolutely fantastic. Now, I will say, I'm not used to the ISO button being right here. There's an actually dedicated dial for ISO. It's shutter speed up here, it's ISO back here, and it's aperture back here on the spin dial. On the Nikon, it's shutter speed here. On the front is aperture, and I hit a button up here to activate changing ISO. It's the same thing on the Sony. I just have to get used to turning this back dial because when I'm in vertical, this back dial up here, which is normally shutter speed for something else, another a Canon or a Sony, or sorry, Nikon or a Sony, is now ISO. So it's just muscle memory where I found myself, I'm like, why am I at 2000 ISO? Why am I higher than I wanted to be? That's because I accidentally hit that button. I was rotating it wrong. So during a timeout, focused on this guy, got his eyes, noticed this. This is not a problem with the camera. This is the LCD board. The massive board in the background is just flickering like that, and that's what's being caught in the image. But I didn't see any issues with banding throughout this entire shoot. Let me select all these because I want to show you a sequence here before we move on to the Sony. All right, I'm just going to run through it. You ready? So you'll see a little stutter there. That's because I took my finger off the shutter for a second, not to because I didn't continuously shoot. But here we go. We got the guy coming up over the back. Did not get a penalty for face mask. That is absolutely a face mask. It looks like he's trying to rip his head off, but it stays locked where I needed it to be locked. Oh my God, it looks like he's ripping his head off. They didn't throw a flag on this one. Boy, oh boy, did he almost kill him. But that's a sack. So tracking him, boom, all the way through. You got those 30 frames a second raw. And boom. Couple more shots from the Canon. I mean, I was really impressed with the Canon. The colors, the tones, great. The autofocus is what I really cared about. I love the feel of the camera. One of the things I didn't like is that it's hard to know that you're shooting sometimes, actually all the time, when you're in silent. And you may say, Jared, why did you shoot silent? You didn't need to be silent. Well, one, because that shutter noise that's like brrr, when you're taking shots is kind of annoying, and it's kind of right in the back of the camera, which is kind of closer to my ear, and I just don't like it. And yeah, I could change it to be lower so that I can just hear it, but these days I tend to just stay on silent because people don't really need to know that I'm shooting, and I don't want to be a distraction even to just other people on the sideline. So what you'll notice is Dan, show some of this happening where I'm shooting pictures, you see like blinking around the outside of the edge of the frame, and you can see the countdown going down a little bit, but the buffer is super fast. It's hard to know that you're actually taking pictures. Whereas with the Sony, you can see that blue box light up more in the middle of the frame. That lets you know that you're shooting in silent. And there's a bar that goes down. That's your buffer bar. It just drops as you're shooting, but you can see that you're actually taking pictures. I wish that there was something better that Canon could do, and I sent this over to them, and they've sent it to Japan to hopefully make the change, because other people had the same issue. They didn't know they were shooting. I also had the same issue when I was using the Z9, shooting the 120 frames per second and the 30 frames per second. So hopefully Nikon makes that correction, and so does Canon. But yeah, this is the last shot just to show you the eyes. Let's jump on over here to the A1 football, picking the best of the best. First things first, shooting in the second half, it was way darker than the first half to start. It was really overcast, and it was raining and windy, and then by the end of this, you'll see that it got much nicer out. The sun came out. Look at this. This is where the shot started, right? The raw file. This is where it comes out, where it's edited. I noticed that the Sony is much more magenta. There's a huge magenta shift. Some people say magenta. There was a huge magenta shift, and you can get rid of it, in Lightroom. Just a little extra tweak. Remember, when I'm zooming in here 1:1, I'm zooming in on 50 megapixels, whereas with the Canon, it's 24. So you're gonna zoom in a little further on this bad boy, but yeah, that's a good shot. This is the one right after it. There's nobody coming into the frame, so we don't have to worry about the stickiness, but this is, you have a lot more distractions in the frame. But I really like the results that I got out of the Sony as well. But now's a good time to say that I kind of felt like the Canon was kind of better on the stickiness effect, on acquiring the faces and staying on the faces, whereas that green box for the Sony didn't seem to ever acquire the eyes or know that the face was there. It just knew that it was a head. And sometimes it was on the top of the helmet, it would stay stuck, whereas with the Canon seemed to just find the face better. So I actually liked the way that the focusing system worked on the Canon when you're looking through the camera, more so than the way that Sony did it in the A1. So it's kind of interesting to think that Canon may have not only met, but surpassed Sony in some ways when it comes to their autofocus. I know the Canon people are gonna be super happy to hear that. I'm not switching today because I still love the 50 megapixels and I still love the quality I get out of the A1, but it definitely is a sports shooter's dream, and a lot more sports shooters use Canon and can adapt the Canon glass that they already have for the 400-2.8s, and they work seamlessly because I've used the 400-2.8 to shoot soccer and it worked great. And that wasn't the RF. That was a 2 generation ago, 10-year-old lens. It adapted extremely well. Whereas this is the RF and the E-mount 400, they're $12,000 pieces of glass. But I'm not trying to sit here and say that the Sony was bad. I just felt that the Canon did a better job of sticking to the subject and acquiring them a little better. But I love the results that I got here. This was quick. I was focused on the quarterback for a second, then he handed it off, and then I think it kind of focused on this guy a little bit, but I was wrong because it actually switched over and jumped over to the running back, and I loved what I got there. This is showing you the same stickiness that the Canon had. The Sony didn't lose him when this guy, Hull, ran in front. So that's good. You can see the rain, right? Because it was raining. Both cameras held up fine. If I had to choose a camera that I think would hold up better, I'll still say that I think the Canon's gonna hold up much better than the Sony. You have an integrated grip. Oh, let's talk about battery life real fast. The Canon battery, of course, is like 3 times as large as the Sony, so you're gonna get more battery life out of the Canon. The Sony's, yeah, in a half I was down to 60-some, 50-some percent. It was pretty quick. Just burning through at least one battery, but I got 2 of those batteries in the camera, so it's still not a deal breaker on that. But it was raining. I didn't run into any issues with the cameras not functioning right. Yeah, perfect, good. You have a distraction over here to the right with the referee. We focus in on the quarterback. It tracked him throughout, great. This is tough. We got the punter perfectly in focus. We got the ball up here going out of the frame. Looks like we have a player coming in. But yeah, I have no complaints with the Sony and the 50 megapixels. And this is where it really shines. I mean, the quality that you get out of, I mean, look how sharp it is once it tightens up. Gorgeously sharp. So that's why I love the A1. I love the 50 megapixels. When Canon comes out with an R1 version, I don't know how many megapixels it will have. It's going to be fantastic as well. I love the files from both of these cameras, so I'm not going to kick either of them out of the bed. If I had to use both, I could use either or, and that's a testament to the quality of the cameras these days. And when I get the Z9, I'm going to take it out into the world as well, because you know those are going to be good. Now this is perfect composition with a 400-2.8. It's not easy to track a subject with a 402.8 and fill the frame without cropping. I know I hammer home the I don't crop thing. That's a personal preference. A lot of sports shooters, probably 99% of the sports shooters, would crop to this. But being able to challenge yourself and get it like this with everything in is great. I love the colors here. Let's see where this one started. See, that's where it was. That's with Skittles modified. Looks really good. Next one, follow through. Couple more here, then we wrap it up. The only reason I'm showing you this isn't like a great picture, but you can see the sun came out. I'm focused on the quarterback, and then in the next image, I go from the quarterback, I twist and I go downfield to where it looks like this guy's catching a touchdown pass. Unfortunately, it focused on Griffin, but you know, the whole point there was to show you that I went from the quarterback and quickly swung, and the camera found the autofocus without me having to do anything. The Canon did the same thing. It was kind of cool to see that there were times where I wasn't even looking because I was just turning the camera quickly from one subject to the next and just shot, and the autofocus got to where it needed to be. So that's a testament to the technology in all of these cameras. And the last shot here, I just love the composition. This is not practice, this is not warm-ups. This is after taking an actual snap during gameplay, tighten up, and it looks really good. So really, I get it, it's a slightly long video. I wanted to show you guys in a real world situation, two cameras that are considered, in my mind, flagships at this point with 402.8s, basically the same thing across the board, shooting the football game, not at the exact same time, but you get the point. I really like the way that the Canon handled when I was shooting. 30 frames a second, you get your RAW. I didn't shoot 30 frames per second in the A1 because I didn't want to shoot the compressed RAW. That's not really a deal breaker. I love the 50 megapixels. I like the colors that I was able to tweak with both of these cameras. The Sony was a little more on the magenta side, as you saw where it started, but where it finishes, you get great results once you tweak those files. So if I was to pick one for sports right now, I really do like what I got with the Canon. You could see it with the EVF. You could just see how sticky the Canon was and how quick it was to react and lock onto the subject, whereas with the Sony, it felt like it was actually behind the Canon in being able to lock onto the head or the right part of the correct part of the body. And so I think that the Canon did a better job there. Are they both night and day better than a DSLR, in my opinion? Yeah, and they're incredible. You can't go wrong with either of them. But for this one, I'm gonna give the edge, at least in my experience, using it to the Canon this time around. So you can let me know what you guys think down below. I'm gonna keep doing tests with these cameras, and when a Z9 comes out, I'm gonna take that out into the real world too and share the results with you. So thank you guys very much for watching. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.